Hi, well, congratulations to France winning the Football World Cup. I thought it might be appropriate this morning, UK time, to cover a French defence game. This was contributed by Cavalier Fou in the Leela Chess forums. This was ID 495, so a very high version. And so Laser again, 1.5 was playing. So E4 from Laser. We have a French defence. So D4, D5, E5, advanced variation. C5, C3, knight C6, knight F3, bishop D7. So O was waiting move, it's been described as. It has also very useful ideas like stopping the checks. You know, sometimes D4 is hanging and you can take it without losing a piece with bishop D7. So a very useful move. Bishop E2. Now F6 undermining the pawn chain immediately. White castles, F takes, knight takes E5, D takes. Now hitting that advanced pawn with queen C7. That's protected. Knight E7. White plays now C4. D4. Although this fixes the pawns, this diagonal might be quite nice later for black. Knight D2. Knight F5. Knight E4. The bishop goes to that diagonal. Bishop C6. Check. And you might think this is pretty awkward. Actually, Leela invites another check by playing G6. Invites knight F6 check. King F7. Bishop G4. And now, quite a tactical move with a positional undertone. Black to play. What would you play in this position? Very interesting move. Okay, Leela plays bishop H6, so hitting the bishop on F4. Now, if White actually played bishop takes H6, let's have a look at some alternatives for a moment. If bishop G3, Black could afford this by shuffling the king here. Black has a small edge with the bishop pair. And if bishop takes F5, this is very nice to take on F4 because E5 is dropping and also H2 is vulnerable. For example, like this, big advantage to Black. F6 is loose, H2's dropping, for example, like this. It's very nice. Very nice for Black indeed. So bishop H6, bishop takes H6, knight takes. Rook E1. Knight G8. The knights exchange off. So Black's ending up with a nice position actually, a protected pass pawn in the centre, a nice diagonal for the bishop, a nice F-file to use in fact. This semi-open F-file could be dangerous for White later. White tries to undermine Black's pawn chain with B4, very aggressive. That's actually just taken. And we end up with a 2-to-1 pawn majority scenario over here instead now. Queen E7, Rook E1. The king goes to G7, Queen B2. H5 hitting the bishop, now protecting that pawn. Black has got a nice use of the C5 square. The entry point's guarded by the bishop on C6. Rook D6. Queen G5 threatening a mate in 1. Rook A E8 protecting that pawn. G3. Queen F5 threatening Queen F5 to F3. Queen F3 potentially. White parries that in advance. Yeah, anything else, Queen F3 is quite dangerous. White might have to sack the exchange to avoid Queen H1 mating. Black would be better here in this scenario. So Bishop G2 in advance of Queen F3. Rook G F8, putting the pressure on the F file. And not minding sacrificing a pawn here. So that's a very interesting decision. There's the concept of the fawn pawn, which is one of my favourite ideas, and in fact it's like this is a pawn sacrifice for a fawn pawn. So fascinating stuff. So White actually just takes, thank you very much, extra pawn. However, Black still has a 2-to-1 pawn majority over here, so he's playing on both sides of the board. If Leela can establish a fawn pawn, it's going to be very interesting. So H4, check, King G8. Rook D7, H3. So the fawn pawn's established. It gives numerous threats all the time now, like Queen F3 for G2. White parries queen f3 with queen e2, but there's still the issue of the 2-to-1 pawn majority here. Sure, white's got a pass pawn itself, but play's being conducted now on both sides of the board quite beautifully here. a4, c5, rook c8, rook c1, b3. That pawn is getting more dangerous. The queen is on the right diagonal to support b2, b1. Takes f4, rook b8, rook d2. Now undermining the f file again, g5, rook f1, and the queen stays on this key diagonal for b2 just in case b2 is one day useful. So it's tying down the queen at the moment. Rook b2. Now queen a7. The queen's very versatile here, hitting c5 now. Queen c4, king g7, rook c1, rook fc8. Now white snaps off this pawn. So white's 2 pawns up now. 5 pawns for white, 3 for black. But there's pressure on both sides of the board. Queen a3, rook bb1, b2, rook c3. As an example of the dangers, this is just losing. Rook c2 because of a check here. And this kind of thing is absolutely winning. Queen f3 check. Because if taking, then there's b1 mating because of that pawn pawn, and here just b1 is winning. So it's a very, very dangerous situation. So rook c3, such versatility now is demonstrated. Queen a8 threatening mate on g2. It's amazing how this queen has been dancing around in this game. Rook c2, rook f8. So there's all sorts of interesting possibilities here. Queen h4, rook h8 stopping any checks on h6. Queen g4, queen a2 hitting the rook, the queen comes back. Rook hd8 trying to lure the queen away from the rook. Rook f8, queen e1. Rook b3. The rooks might potentially double now on the f file as well. Rook d2. As an example here of the dangers, if c6, actually there's also rook d3 to try and deflect the queen away from the rook. And here, check, queen a4 hits the rook. And then the rooks can double here, and this is just so dangerous. For example, queen takes c2, and again the pawn pawn is mating in this variation, as example variation. So it shows the real dangers of this pawn pawn as well. So rook d2, rook c3, threatening queen takes b1 and rook c1. So this forces white to do something drastic. That's taken. Queen c4, rook d2, queen takes c5 check. Now the rooks double. So what has black achieved giving up that pawn? White is still 2 pawns up, but look at black's position. This is really dangerous. Queen e1. Rook f3 to f5, queen c4 on the light squares. They're getting more vulnerable now for white. Check, queen d3, and here there's a combination played after king g1. Can you guess black's play? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, what would you play with black? Okay. 2 pawns down, but it's all been very positional. White's so tied down and tactically is blasted now with rook f1 check, winning material. After rook takes f1 check. So either way, one of the rooks is dropping off. If rook takes, then there's queen takes. In the game, king takes was played, dropping the b1 rook. King g6. Hitting h2, getting a pawn back like that. And here it was adjudicated as a win for black. Black's just going to take on e5 here and be winning. So a wonderful French defense game there. So amazing. Leela ID 495. My one concern now is after watching the film called Her last night, is if Leela leaves us to study Go or something. I hope Leela remains with us and doesn't go away. Okay. So anyway, comments, questions, likes, shares, appreciated. Thanks very much.